One of the main chemicals that's used in agriculture today is called atrazine. It is called, in the scientific literature, a chemical castrator. This is the gender bender. You've talked about it, and you were attacked, I believe, for talking about atrazine, but you were right on. Atrazine and these other chemicals, they go back into the food supply, back into the water supply, and they feminize men across America. This is a scientific fact. It's not debatable by anyone who is actually informed about science.
Oh, even PBS did a study and said the gay frogs are real. Why does it makes a lot of them hermaphrodites, others deformed, but generally it makes them act female, and then the males try to have sex with each other and then leave the females alone.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back live. We got a real treat for you here. The Health Ranger, one of the biggest health sites out there on the web, prolific filmmaker, author, you name it, riding a shotgun. He hadn't been here in a couple of years because he quit doing a lot of media interviews. He said, Alex, I'm setting up my research farm. I'm setting up one of the biggest research labs with all the top certifications. In fact, I was reading for private labs, you've got more certifications than almost anybody else. The type of testing you can do, you're now doing it for a lot of big companies and things. We're really, really excited. And you can also then double check the tests that these law firms and groups do out in California and keep getting these positive tests even when other third-party labs aren't getting that. Very interesting. So we're going to talk about that some. But I just wanted to welcome you back here now that you got your lab up and going and tested over several years. Naturalnews.com. And, of course, Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, is the editor of naturalnews.com, well-known writer of topics of natural health nutrition, reversing serious disease with the use of plant-based medicines, and he's here with us. But I want to just show everybody something first, because I thought about this last week when I called and asked you guys to come in. I said, you ready to come back in? You're like, yeah. What Dr. Group's talking about, what you've been talking about, when I get up here and I plug something, it's because I deeply believe in it. And we've been trying for years, going back 5 years ago, to come out with an iodine that was palatable and not toxic like they put out in the stores. But since we've been promoting true nascent atomic iodine, suddenly you see it everywhere. It's being added to supplements, but it's not really the high-quality iodine, which, again, I want competitors. I just want you to know we've been trailblazing with Dr. Group and others to where now, you know, you didn't used to go to the store and see colloidal silver. You didn't used to go to the store and see iodine. It's there because the listeners and others have taken action and people have discovered it, but we're not the ones that discovered it. This is National Institutes of Health. Now, you type in iodine deficiency women, pregnancy, losing their babies, and let's do a wide shot real quick so we can see our guest, thanks. And they don't tell you this. It's all government stuff and BS up top, but then all the government's real info is buried by Google now. Iodine deficiency may reduce pregnancy chances, NIH study suggests. Fallout from nuclear button tweak jumps the sales of radiation drug when it isn't even the right kind. On and on and on. So this is right here that birth defects, low IQs, not being able to get pregnant, iodine, 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 just one area. And they will not tell. I mean, the government does the studies and admits it. Okay, fluoride brain damages you. Harvard says you take it out of the water. They won't do it. So welcome back. Wanted to just set the table with that. X2, fund the operation, fund the info. We're kind of doing a drive today to raise money for the operation. Get something you need. If you haven't taken the iodine, you're crazy. Infowarsstore.com. Thank you all for your support, but I'm ranting. You can get it at its regular price or get it 40% off when you get it with Secret 12, our high-quality methylcobalamin, vitamin B12 at Infowarsstore.com. So, Mike, I'm going to let you guys really go here coming up, or I'm going to do my old interrupt and take over, but I'm just get excited by realizing we have the answers and we don't even crow about it enough. This is how we're going to break the globalists back. So good to have you back.
It's great to be back, Alex.
You bet.
It's been a few years. I really appreciate the invite. Just to establish a little bit of background. So yeah, my lab has been running now 4 years. We're ISO accredited, which is a 2-year audit process. We're a mainstream lab. One of the science papers that I'm a co-author of was one of the top read papers last year in a journal called LCGC. It's about chromatography. We have 3 mass spec instruments. I've got 3 scientists and chemists at the lab, and we require everybody in my lab to be proficient in firearms to work there. So we are actually a pro-Second Amendment science lab, which I think we're the only one in America like that, by the way. But we do really good science. We publish papers, we publish posters, they're featured everywhere. And we can now analyze anything, almost anything, whether it's food, environmental samples, nutritional supplements. We can identify unknown molecules using mass spec instrumentation. So we can look at heavy metals, or we can look at pesticides, or we can certify products to be have a lack of pesticides. And the big news of what we're seeing now, Alex, is that you know how the mainstream media is infecting people's minds with all this hate, all this bad information. You know, the CNN, they've become journo terrorists. They're just infiltrating people's minds, you know, with false information. That would not be possible unless people were also being poisoned and kept nutritionally deficient. So what you just mentioned is right, exactly on track. It's the deficiency, it's the poisoning of the food supply, and maybe we can talk about the biosludge thing. It's the poisoning of the vaccines, which they're pushing very heavily right now because of the whole flu push, combined with the information war of the mainstream media. It's a binary weapon system, Alex. That's what's being pushed by the mainstream.
Wow, Mike Adams, again, a few years ago said, listen, I built the lab. I got to get into this full-time. I'm cutting back on interviews, but I'll be back. And bam, back. And CWClabs.com, highly respected, some of the most intensive wide-spectrum analysis out there. And we use some of the top labs in the country as well that have given us great results. And he's tested our stuff and found the same results that don't match up with the latest test out of California. What a surprise. We'll be back. Well, the Health Ranger is back, and he's on fire with Dr. Edward Group. This is a live global transmission. Gentlemen, I'm going to turn things over to you because I know with your spectrometers and analysis, you're also looking into the vaccines, which have governmental protection, which they say when you try to study them. I know they threaten to sue you, saying don't look at what's in them, but sorry, you found the mutagens. So one of the top labs in the country, got all these scientists hired working there, highly respected, 4 years, in the making, been up and running a few years. We're going to do that next segment. But right now, let's continue just into whatever you want to get into first. Your biosludge documentary, this is huge.
Well, yeah, okay, so biosludge, it's the greatest cover-up. This is the mass poisoning of our country. Now, biosludge, what is it? It's human sewage. It's the collection of all the pollutants from a city. It's all the industrial waste that gets flushed down the toilet. Everything goes into this raw sewage situation. They take that raw sewage. Every city does this, including Austin, where we are, and they dump it in the countryside. This is cities polluting the countryside with toxins that are outrageous. And
So the cities are literally crapping on the country, folks.
Absolutely. Literally doing that. And I've completed all the primary photography and interviews with all the experts, former EPA scientists who blew the whistle and who were fired. We've got a film coming out. There's no revenue in it. It's at biosludged.com. It's going to be released for free. We've got all the scientists blowing the whistle on this.
You know what's crazy, though? People put stuff out for free, and we do it, too, and then they don't appreciate it. Maybe you say you're putting it out free for a week or something, or because, this needs to be celebrated when we need funding, Yeah,
well, we've got funding sources like you do, product lines and so on, but this is something that we feel this is urgent for America.
No, I totally agree. I mean, you should put it out for free. It just, sometimes, though, it doesn't have the same pizzazz if it's free. I don't understand it.
No, I know. But look, there's a bioterrorism aspect to this, too. It's not just the chemicals. It's not just the heavy metals.
The runoff, the stuff that's turning the frogs.
You combine all of the feces and all the viral strains and all the bacteria of an entire city, you put it into a pile, and you dump it out in the countryside, the birds get into it, and they spread the viruses. You know why we're having so many weird diseases? You got eye bleeding disease now happening, spreading. It's an epidemic across America. It's because there is this mass poisoning. It was approved by the Clinton administration EPA back in the 1990s.
I remember, and they were like, Hawaii, biosludge, when I first heard about it. They make it in Hawaii. It's sewage. Right. Putting the sewage next to Hawaii, all the chemicals, all the toxins, all the stuff you dump down the drain, all the gasoline, all the runoff, all of the particulate. And then, as you said, they admit over 100 million people got SV40 and ended up dying from that cancer virus. They admit they're not even cooking this sludge. These viruses and things can stay in suspended animation. And they say that they estimate hundreds of millions of Indians in India have died from it, and almost the entire population is infected with one cancer virus alone, SV40.
The environmental movement is a political joke because they talk about global warming and climate change, things that are a scientific hoax. They won't talk about the actual environmental crime, the greatest environmental crime of our time, which is biosludge being spread on our countryside, on our farms. It's being used in areas where we grow corn, we grow fruits, in Washington State, in Oregon.
And their argument is, to be clear, you're the expert, the argument is, and group jump in any time here, this is important, they go, hey, everybody's always used dung, but that's from cows that ate the grass that's natural. You don't take everything out of the city and then go spray it on people's crops. It's the bioaccumulation mutating the fish.
Well, they're actually selling it back to you too, right? I mean,
yes.
We're making the soil out of it.
It's called recycling, but what you're doing is you're concentrating toxins back into the food supply. And we talked about the multiple vectors.
Ooh, so just like whales, it bioaccumulates from the krill up to the larger fish, and then it bioaccumulates in the whales. Oh my gosh, they're over and over again putting the toxins on the food, feeding it again to super bioaccumulate.
There's even more, Alex. One of the main chemicals that's used in agriculture today is called atrazine. It is called, in the scientific literature, a chemical castrator. This is the gender bender. You've talked about it, and you were attacked, I believe, for talking about atrazine, but you were right on. Atrazine and these other chemicals, they go back into the food supply, back into the water supply, and they feminize men across America. This is a scientific fact. It's not debatable by anyone who is actually informed about science.
Oh, even PBS did a study and said the gay frogs are real. Why does it makes a lot of them hermaphrodites, others deform, but generally it makes them act female, and then the males try to have sex with each other and then leave the females alone. So why does it particularly do that?
Well, there's the hormone sensitivity it kicks in at parts per trillion concentrations of a contaminant. So where a lot of health effects require maybe much higher concentrations of exposure, such as heavy metals at parts per million, which is 1,000,000 times higher than parts per trillion, by the way. But hormone systems are sensitive at parts per trillion. So it takes a very tiny amount, Alex, of atrazine or glyphosate or another chemical, right, Ed?
Yeah, endocrine disrupting chemicals.
It disrupts.
And you know why you guys are so important on this? Trailblaze talking about this for decades and helped me understand it. And that is when you look at Colbert or the other shows or mainstream news that attacks me, every attack is about, oh, he claims they're putting stuff in the food and water to make you feminine. And then you read their own documents. The White House science czar under Obama, they admitted the plan when he wrote the book in the 70s, Eco-Science. So we're attacking their main plan.
It's all in the scientific literature. Alex, we are now publishing science.news, by the way, which is just all the scientific literature that supports exactly what we're talking about. They try to say that this is not science. It's all over the literature. We have a whole team that harvests 20 science stories a day. And we cover this. The gender bender chemicals are real. The mass feminization across America is real. You know, this is happening right now, and it's irrefutable. I run a mass spec lab. We are experts in pesticide analysis and detection. We had a major global food company come to us and want us to validate a new food contamination method development. We are well known now in the food contamination industry. I wrote that book, Food Forensics, you know. It was the #1 bestseller on Amazon. We are experts in food contamination. I can tell you that what you said is true. The food is a vector, a weapon that's being used against masculinity, against fertility. You mentioned that in the last segment. The infertility, the depopulation.
Then what's the headline for this to get to people? Like emergency warning, scientific journals confirm plan to sterilize you. I mean, how do you get through to people? This is happening.
The problem is that so much of the population has been chemically softened up. Their brains have been carpet bombed by all these things that we're talking about.
Even if you don't want to take Prozac and Ritalin and the thousands of drugs, it all goes into the sludge, is put on the crops.
Yes.
You eat it again.
Yes.
Heavy metals. Good God.
The water treatment centers in the cities don't remove these chemicals.
And notice under California regulations, they get waivers on everything.
Of course. Of course. And this biosludge is dumped in forests where it runs off into the rivers, which is used in the water supply for the city downstream.
And then they wonder why, just in the last decade, I guess it's the sludge since the Clintons, they say, we don't know. We've made industry a lot cleaner in the big factories, but suddenly the contamination in the fish and frogs and stuff's worse than ever.
Yeah. Yep. And there are thousands of contaminants, and the EPA only requires testing for 4 possible contaminants. I think only 2 viral strains. There are thousands of viral strains.
Well, wait a second. Isn't the EPA supposed to protect us?
The Environmental Pollution Agency?
Well, let's explain. They've proven, just search engine it in major studies, SV40 is in every major sewage system of the world. It's one virus, guaranteed, that's killed hundreds of millions of people globally. And then no one even knows that most cancer is viral.
The biosludge industry is doing to America what a bioterrorist could never hope to accomplish.
They're doing what Hitler could never have dreamed of by stealth. We'll be back with this critical information. Please spread the word now.